Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Habayim. We're continuing on Masechet Succah. We're on top of Lamed Hey, Amud Aleph. Today's Amud is being learned as a Schud Refuah Shelema for Esther Bracha Bat Chaya, for Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, for Michael Ben Nahid, that she'll have Refuah Shelema. This Amud is being learned as a Schud for Aliyat Neshama of Rachel Yafa Bat Netanel. And today's Amud is dedicated by Shea family, by Dayan family, by Kohen family. It should be an ultimate zchut for all the mishpachot. Amen. Amen. So in the last Mishnah that we started on Lamed Daled Amud Bet, we discussed the psulim, the criteria for the kashrut of etrog, and we mentioned the regular elements that we had seen already by all of the other three species of lulav, hadas, v'arava. Etrog hagazul, yavesh, shel ashera, shel iranidachat. And then we had the specific psulim that pertain to etrog only, which is the orla, because again, we talk about fruits, and only fruits have an issue of orla, that the first 3 years they're not usable, they're asur b'achila, they're asur b'hana'ah, whereas lulav, hadas, v'arava, that are branches and leaves, they don't necessarily fall under the category of orla. And then we start discussing in the Gemara, where do we even know that when the Torah says pri etz hadar, which literally translated means a very beautiful fruit, how do you know that that means etrog? We take it for granted that means etrog. Very beautiful. I could think of a few fruits when I think of a beautiful fruit. So how do you know a pri etz hadar is a reference to etrog altogether? So the Gemara started darshaning that in the Braita, pri etz hadar, etz shetam etzo perio shaveh. Instead of saying peri hadar, a beautiful fruit, it says pri etz hadar. Why do you have to mention the etz, the tree, the branch? It's coming to tell you that it has to be from a tree that the tree itself, tastes like the fruit. Now it's actually very interesting because Zohar HaKadosh seems to indicate that Etz Hadat was etrog. It's very, it makes the whole thing of Chag HaSukkot and the Arba Minim very much more meaningful. Even though the Gemara does not mention etrog, the Gemara gives Masechet Brachot 4 different options of what Etz Hadat exactly was, but this makes it even that much more meaningful, especially taking consideration that this Chet Haaretz, before Adam and Chava even sinned, Chet Haaretz was that the command that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the land was that the land should produce Etz Peri Ose Peri. An Etz Peri Ose Peri, which means a tree that its branch also tastes like the fruit. And when it says actually the production of trees by the land, it says that Totzeh Haaretz es Ose Peri. It was not Etz Peri Ose Peri, it was just Etz Ose Peri. So that really, in a deeper sense, beneath the surface layer of the Gemara, we're talking about the original sin as well, that etrog, in some sense, is a tikkun for not just a sadat, but also for the chet of the land itself, however you slice that, however you understand that an inanimate object could have a sin. But nevertheless, this is etz peri ose peri, because it says peri etz hadar, etz shetam etzo perio shaveh. Heve omer ze etrog. The only thing I could think of, says the Gemara, is an etrog tree. That if you have if you chew off a little fresh branch, it has that very tinge and taste of an etrog itself. So says the Gemara, really, is that the only thing? Because I have a Braita that Rabbi Meir in that Braita says that peppercorns is also etz peri ose peri. It will be also ta'am etzo perio shaveh. Let's read the Braita. Says the Gemara, ve'ema pilpelin kedatanya. Hay Rabbi Meir omer mimashmash ne'emar untatem kol etz ma'achal. When it talks about, Psukim talk about the mitzvah of orla, says untatem kol etz ma'achal, this is plantation of any fruit that is edible. And then at the end of the pasuk says that this is fruit, at pirio. So if you're telling me that's a fruit tree, why do you have to tell me in the beginning, etz machal? A tree that's for eating. I know that's fruits, so it's edibles. It's not a barren tree. That's I know already from the last part of the pasuk. So why do you have to tell me etz machal, an edible etz, an edible tree? Says the Braita says Rabbi Meir is coming to tell you that the etz is exactly that, etz machal. That the etz itself is edible, tastes like the fruit. Says Rabbi Meir, Eni yodiyashu etz machal, ma Talmud amar etz machal, etz shetam etzo priyo shaveh. We're talking about a tree that the taste of the fruit and the branch is similar, it's identical. Says the Gemara, ve'omer ze pilpelin. This will be peppercorns. And it's coming to also teach you that the Eretz Yisrael is not missing a thing. Even delicacies and details, the things that are not necessary for life, it's just coming to add some spice to life. Eretz Yisrael has it all. First of all, it teaches you that peppercorns is chaya be'orla. And secondly, in Eretz Yisrael, chasera klum. Eretz Yisrael is not missing a thing. Shenemar lo techsar kolba. You will not be lacking anything in Eretz Yisrael. So says the Gemara, so why don't we suggest that peppercorn should be peri etz hadar, right? So Gemara says, mishum de lo efshar. It's not possible. How are you going to do nanuim with a pepper? You're holding a little thing in your hand, right? It's not possible. Says the Gemara, well, take a bunch of them maybe. If you take one, hechi navid, how are you going to do this? Ninkot chada, if you take one, lo minkra, you can't even see it. It's tiny. Lo minkra nekichada. Ninkot tere, or telata, if you take a bunch, echada marachmara, it says peri etz hadar, it's one, not more than one. V'lo shnayim v'shlosha. Hilkach lo efshar. Therefore, it's not possible that the Torah is talking about this. In other words, process of elimination. The Torah says peri etz hadar. It has to be tam etzo pirio shaveh. We find two things that fit the bill. One of them is not possible because it's not possible. It's either too small and you can't take more than one. So therefore, it's out of the question, and you're left with peri etz hadar being an etrog. Fine. So that's one way of knowing that peri etz hadar means etrog. That it has to be tam etzo pirio shaveh. That's proof number one. Rabbi Omer, al tikri hadar ela hadir. Rabbi says the proof is because when it says peri etz hadar, you can read hadar differently. You can read it hadir. Dir means a barn. Like you have different types of animals, different sizes of animals in there. Ma dir ze yesh bo gdolim uktanim, temimim u'ba'alei mumim. Just like a deer has in it larger animals, smaller animals, healthy animals, blemished animals. Here also, the etrog has yesh bo gdolim uktanim, temimim u'ba'alei mumim. It has all kinds of sizes at the same time, simultaneous. It's one of the trees that's like that. Gemara says, wait a second, atushar perot, letbu gidolim uktanim temimim u'ba'alei mumim. The other fruits, the other species don't have this. Well, apples, you can't find the apple tree that has a large apple and a small apple, and a good one and a blemished one. Of course you can't find. So how is that a proof that peri etz hadar means etrog? Maybe it means apples. Maybe it means oranges. So says the Gemara, no. Elachi kamar. This is what he's saying. You have new crop of fruits coming up. The New Year's fruits are sprouting and growing, and you still have the big ones from last year on the tree. That you don't find by apples. Apples, they have season. Once the season is gone, they rot away, they fall away, and they're gone. But by etrog, which is actually very true, the family of etrog, you could have last year's still on if you didn't pick them. They're still fresh and nice, and then you have the new ones growing on the tree. So that's like a deer. Right? It's like a barn. You have the animals from last year, now you have the new ones born, everything is there. So that's what he's talking about. So that's the second proof. Rabbi Abahu says a little differently. Al tikri hadar, when he says peri etz hadar, hadar could be also read exactly as it is, hadar. Instead of hadar, is hadar. What is hadar? That lives, right? Dira. Pri etz hadar means davar shedar beilano mishana leshana. It's a fruit that lives on its tree from year to year. You don't take it off, it's not going to go bad. It'll go for a whole full year until the next fruits come in. So you see it from not deer as a barn, but hadar means it lives on the tree from year to year. So that's the third. This is the last two are very similar. Ben Azai says, Al tikri hadar, ela idur, or hidur, the way the side girsa has it. Sheken belashon ivani, in Greek language, korin lemayim idur. Water is called idur. So what does that mean? What's water have got to do with anything? Says the Gemara, ve'ezehu shegadel al kol mayim, have omer ze etrog. What is the fruit that needs all the water to grow on? In other words, regularly speaking, you have trees that when you have a regular rain season, the rain satisfies the need of the tree, and they're good to go. You got a lot of rain, the rain season, and then once the Adar Nisan hits, they start sprouting and growing, and that's it. They've got everything that they need in the rain season. By etrog, it's not like that. You need all of that, and then you need to bucket water them also afterwards. They need a lot of water. Our kol ma'im means you need the rainwater. You also need to add ma'im she'uvim, says Rashi, to give them water. Fine. So that's the fourth proof that we had.
How did it go from hadar to idur?
So that's how do you read it? Why do you have to say peri etz hadar, right? If you haven't told me what type of species of fruit it is, I have to be somehow able to understand what it is from the psukim that they are mentioning the criterias, and all we got is peri etz hadar, right? So from this, either from the etz part we make the diuk that tam etzo pri yoshaveh, right? Because peri etz pri. Or from the word hadar. Now we have three different ways of explaining how you would darshin hadar. It's a hadir, right? Hadar or hidur, which would mean a reference to water. Says the Gemara. Now the next piece, if you have a etrog that was worshipped, or if you have a etrog that was grown and picked from the fruit from the tree already, in an Irani Dachat meaning a city, the majority of inhabitants, they did Avodah Zarah, now they have to be completely destroyed. That also is Pasul. So it says the Gemara, my Tama. What's the reason that they would be Pasul? Kevan de lisrefa kai ketuti michtat shir. Because the halacha of this etrog is they should be burnt, it has to be destroyed. Therefore, even though that you see this gorgeous $1,000 piece of etrog, the halacha sees a pile of ashes. And therefore the psul is not because it's asur b'hana'ah, because you already mentioned before mitzvot, lav lehanot nitnu. It's not because of that that's a problem, but because it doesn't have shiur, it doesn't have the minimum size of an etrog. You said the minimum size of etrog is a betzah. This doesn't have it because it's ashes. The halakha looks at it as completely cut up and destroyed and burnt and turned into ashes. So therefore, the psul is not isur hana'ah. The psul is, it doesn't have shiur. It doesn't have the minimum amount of an etrog. So says the Gemara, kevan de l'srefa kai ketuti michtat shiure shel orla pasur. Now this is the first unique psul that the Mishnah mentions about etrog. Now, we mentioned already in the beginning of Shur today that Hadassim, Aravot, and even Lulav don't have this problem, because even though that Lulav has fruits, and the fruits of Lulav, the fruits of a palm tree you cannot use for the first 3 years, but the branches you can. It's only a prohibition against the fruits of the tree. So says the Gemara, what's the reason that Orlav would be pasul? It's mine. It's my tree. So it has lachem and it's beautiful. Why wouldn't I be able to do it? So Pligi bar Abchia bar Avin v'Rav Asi. So Machloket Amoraim, what exactly the reason? Chad amar lefi she'en ba heter achila. One of them holds that there is no heter achila, it's asur ba'achila. For the first 3 years, you cannot eat fruits. So what if you can't eat the fruits? Take a quick look at Rashi over here. Heter achila, the fish and by heter achila, Rashi says, v'rachmana amar lachem haraui lachem b'kol darchei hana. We said this yesterday, that this is an offshoot of ownership. When the Torah says lachem, it has to be yours. It means you have to have complete authority to do whatever you want, and part of that is being able to eat it. If I can't eat it, it's not really mine, because what kind of thing it is that's mine, but I can't eat it? So therefore, it's an offshoot of the halacha of ulkachtem lachem. It has to be taken, but it has to be yours. So that's one way of understanding. The other one holds lefi she'en bah din mamon, because it doesn't have din mamon. What is din mamon? Din mamon means it has to be a financial value in it for you. That means it's worth something, and because it's worth something, it's part of your ownership. Because if something has no monetary value, no value at all, so is that really considered like mine? What does it make a difference that it's mine if it's worth nothing? You understand? When you say something is mine, it only means something if it has some sort of value attached to it. If I, quote unquote, have something, but it's worth nothing, is that mine? Well, you could call it mine, but it's not really mine. It's a chisaron in lachem. Again, take a quick look at Rashi. Lefi she'en ba din mamon. How do we understand that? Says Rashi, she'eino shaveh pruta, because it's not worth even a pruta. Pruta is the smallest buying power of being worth something. This is not shaveh pruta, because what you got to do with it? Or it's asur ba'ana'ah. The isur hana'ahu. It is asur ba'ana'ah. Now, when something is asur ba'ana'ah, it's not asur to take it as arba, meaning because asur ba'ana'ah, because again, we mentioned mitzvot, lav lehanot nitnu. So therefore, that can't be the problem. The problem is, once it's asur ba'ana'ah, nobody could use it. I can't feed it even to a stray dog. I can't give it as a gift to my worker. I cannot drive any direct or indirect benefit. So once that's the case, hilkach lav shelachemhu. It's not considered yours because it has no monetary value. Its monetary value is zero, efes, and therefore it's a chisaron. It's a lack of lachem. Now we got to understand this a little more. For instance, let me give you an example. Okay, example is Rabbi Meir. We're going to discuss this, so I'm going to give this example as a preface because the Gemara is going to mention it. Rabbi Meir holds that Maaser Sheni that you have to discuss yesterday, right? The second tithe that you have to take, it's mamon gavoa. It's not yours. It's considered the money of, you eat it, you own it, so to speak. It's yours. If someone takes it from you, they stole. But at the same time, it's not considered yours. It's considered you're eating from the table of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? You're eating from the table of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, what's the halachic nafkamina? I'm going to be eating it anyway. So what's the difference? Who cares? It's mine for all practical. No, it's not. If you walk with a box of maaser sheni to a woman and say, "Arat mekudeshet li," right? I want you to be betrothed to me with this box. I'm giving you something of value, right? This is worth $500. So I'm giving you, a gold ring should be like $150. Right? This is even more worth it than the ring. Here it is. Can't do it. If you go according to Rabbi Meir, that Maaser Sheni is Mamon Gavoah, this is a drasha that Gemara makes in Masechet Kiddushin Daf Nun Gimal, that if you say Maaser Sheni is Mamon Gavoah, we have a drasha that you cannot be Mekadesh and Isha with it. It's not yours. You're allowed to eat it. It is yours, in fact, that it's asur for me to take it from you, but it's a gift that's given to you by HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you eat it. Until the moment that you eat it, it's not really yours. It's yours, but it's not really yours. You don't have mammon in it. It's mammon gavoah. It's the money of Hashem. It is given to you to use. So for all practical purposes, nobody could take it away from you. You have to be eating it. You're responsible for taking it to Yerushalayim, and you can't mess with it. But halachically speaking, the status of this is money of Hashem. And if it's money of Hashem, then even though that is quote-unquote mine, but it's really not mine. So when it says, Ulkachtem lachem, you have to take something from yours, that thing would be not able to be used as lachem. Right? That's the difference. By something that's considered mammon or is not considered mammon. So that's the machloket amoraim that we have over here. Again, the machloket is between Rabbi Chia ben Avin and Rav Asi. One of them says the reason is because there's no heter achila, you can't eat it. If you can't eat it, it's not yours. And the other one says it's not yours because there's no din mammon in it. It's not worth a thing. Because it's asur ba'ana, it's worth nothing. It's not worth anything. Therefore, it's not yours. Fine. So let's take a deeper dive in this, says the Gemara. Kasal kadate, man debai heter achila, lo ba'e din mammon. These two things that we just discussed as machloket amoraim, the Gemara is thinking right now that they're exclusive, mutually exclusive, right? Each one of them doesn't hold of the other one. Rav Chia bar Avin and Rav Asi, we don't know who says what, but one of them holds is because it's asur to eat it, therefore it's not lachem, because it's not worth anything. The other one holds it's not heter mamon, right? It's not because asur ba'achila, but it is because it's not din mamon. It's not considered money. So says the Gemara, we are under the impression that each one of them doesn't hold like the other one. Man de bayi heter achila, the one that requires it being edible, mutar to eat, lo bayi din mamon, doesn't need it to be mamon. Have din mamon. Uman de bayi din mamon, the one that needs din mamon, that it should be worth something, lo bayi heter achila. He does not need it to be edible. Now, Tanan, we're going to have a nafkamina right here and right now. We learned in our Mishnah, Shel terumat me'ah pasul. Remember, one of the invalid cases of etrog is an etrog that is for terumat me'ah. A terumat that became tameh, it's not edible. It's asur to eat it. A kohen can't eat it. Certainly a non-kohen can't eat it. But you know what you could do with it? You could use it as fuel. Right? You put it in the fire and it adds the fuel, right? So you can make maybe a scrambled egg out of it, right? You could heat up the pot. So that's worth something. So here, is it mutar ba'achila? Absolutely not. Does it have din mamon? Of course it does. I can sell it. If the etrog wouldn't be $300, well, it would be $3. I could sell it as fuel. And people could actually use it to put it in the fire to, back in the day, they used everything for fuel, right? So it has worth, According to the mandamar that holds the problem is heter achila. I understand why terumat temah, etrog of terumat temah is pasul, because there's no heter achila in it. You can't eat it. There's nobody that could eat it. Ela le mandamar lefi she'em ba din mamon. According to the mandamar that the problem is din mamon, that has to be worth something. Of course he's worth something. Amai, why is it pasul? Hare mesikat tachat tafshila. You could put it under your pot and increase the fire. It's worth something. So says the Gemara, we had this wrong. Everybody, it's not mutually exclusive. Everybody agrees that it has to be edible. That everybody agrees. But there's a machloket, does it also on top of that have to have a monetary value? Or maybe not. Maybe that's not a requirement. Let's read it inside. Everybody agrees that your etrog that you use for Chag HaSukkot has to be mutar, to be eaten. So therefore, a terumat temah according to everybody is pasul. Because everyone needs that. That's a baseline. Even though the terumat temah is worth money, but it is not edible, and therefore it's gone. It's pasul, according to everybody. And hence the Mishnah. Mishnah says one of the cases of pasul is terumat temah. You wonder why? Because it's not edible. But on top of that, after something is edible, there's another, that's the machloket. Ki peligi, the machloket, the machloket Rav Asi and Rav Chia bar Avin is whether or not on top of being edible, you also need it to have din mamon. Mor savar, heter achila ba'inan, din mamon lo ba'inan. One of them holds that we only need heter achila to be mutter, to be eaten, but we don't need it to be worth anything. Umor savar, din mamon nami ba'inan. The other one holds on top of the fact that it should be edible, it also needs to be worth money. So says the Gemara, my benai, what's the nafkamina? What's the case that is nafkamina? Ika benayu maaser sheni b'Yerushalayim. See this? That's why we said the preface before. The nafkamina is maaser sheni in Yerushalayim according to Rabbi Meir. Now, if you have maaser sheni outside of Yerushalayim, is it edible? No. So there's nothing to talk about. But if you have Maaser Sheni and you already are in Yerushalayim, so you have this beautiful etrog that's Maaser Sheni, and you're in Yerushalayim for Chag HaSukkot, and you go there to buy etrog, you say, you know what, none of these market etrogs is as good as my own Maaser Sheni etrog. I'm going to use my, can you do it? Well, it's edible. It's edible, but it's not my money. According to Rabbi Meir, it's Mamon Gavoa, Mishulchan Gavoa, Kazachu. You're Ochel Mishulchan Gavoa. You're eating from the table of Hashem. It's not mine. So therefore, if you require it to be monetary mine, it's not monetary mine. I can't be Mekadesh and I can't walk to a woman and say, Arad Mekadesh Be'etrogzeh, because it's not mine, and therefore I can't use it as the etrog of my Arba Minim, either, according to Rabbi Meir, if you require a monetary value. According to the mandamar that only requires it to be edible, this is edible. It's Maaser Sheni in Yerushalayim. It's edible, completely edible. According to the mandamar, it says there is no din mamon. Maaser Sheni, mamon gavoahu. Maaser Sheni, according to Rabbi Meir, is considered mamon gavoah, and therefore you can't use it. You wouldn't be able to use it for your etrog, for your arba minim. Now, this we discuss it as a machloket amoraim of Rav Chia bar Avin and Rav Asi, right? We said one of them holds like this, one of them holds. We don't know who holds what, right? We just know between these two amoraim that had the debate, had the machloket. One of them holds that the issue is only the issue of edible. And the other one holds that on top of being edible, you needed to have also din mamon. We don't know who holds what. The one says, I will give you a clue. I found a clue that which one is which. You know which one it is that on top of edible requires to have din mamon is Rab Asi. How do I know? The Amar Rab Asi, because Rab Asi said, actually in halacha regarding etrog, on Chag HaSukkot, the etrog shel Maaser Sheni, if you have this, our case, that you have etrog of Maaser Sheni and you are in Yerushalayim, Beyom Tov, if you're Maaser Sheni, the Divrei Rabbi Meir, en Adam Yotze bo Yedei Chubato Beyom Tov. According to Rabbi Meir, you cannot be Yotze with etrog of Maaser Sheni. Why can't you? It's edible if you're in Yerushalayim. So why does Rabbi Asi say that is not allowed to be used for your etrog of arba minim? The only reason would be because it doesn't have din mamon. L'divrei chachamim, Adam yotze bo yedei chubato b'yom tov tistayim. The Gemara says that is the halacha. That Rabbi Asi is the one that holds you need for the etrog to be kasher, you need it to be A, edible, and B, an additional requirement is it has to have din mamon. It has to be considered halachically worth money to me. So says the Gemara, Gufa. Oh, you're out of time. Is that correct? Let's do one more piece over here. I think we have 2 minutes to go. Gufa, Amar Rav Asi, etrog shel maaser sheni divrei Meir, en adam yotzeh bo yedei chubato b'yom tov. According to Rabbi Meir, the etrog of Maaser Sheni you cannot use for your lulav and etrog, right? The etrog cannot be used for arba minim. L'divrei chachamim adam yotzeh bo yedei chubato b'yom tov. According to chachamim who hold Maaser Sheni is my money, it's not mamon gavoa, then you could because it's edible and it's mine. It's good to go. Matzah shel Maaser Sheni, the matzah of Maaser Sheni. Can you imagine that? If you have flour from Maaser Sheni and you made matzah out of it, according to Rabbi Meir, you cannot use it for Chag HaPesach. Since when matzah has to be lachem? Right now we have, by etrog it says, Ulkachtem lachem. Matzah we have to still figure out because it doesn't say lachem. And it says the Gemara, a third item is Isa shel Maaser Sheni, first wide line, According to Rabbi Meir, that Maaser Sheni is mamon gavoa. If you make a dough from Maaser Sheni, you are patur from chala. No hafrashat chala needed. Right? Because the pasuk says arisotechem. It has to be your dough. Fine. So we understand that, as the Gemara is going to say. So we have 3 items that seem to be needing to be yours halachically, and one of them is etrog, the other one is matzah and lel pesach, and the other one is for hafrashat chala that has to be yours to be chayav bechala. The Gemara is going to discuss exactly how we know that on Pesach the matzah has to be yours, which is very much in Yana de Yoma. We're getting close to Shloshim Yom Kodem HaChag, so B'ezras Hashem will continue on that in the days to come.